Hi, my name is Kelvin Newman and welcome to the Brighton SEO podcast, where we share talks from one of the world's most popular search and marketing conferences. The event started out as a few people meeting in an upstairs room of a pub and is now attended by over 3,000 people from all over the world. This episode is a recording of one of the speakers at a recent event.
So without further ado, Chris, you can talk to the audience about supercharging Google Shopping. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chris from Journey Further. We're a biddable media agency, and we have a number of clients who work in large retail. And so over the last year, we've really focused in on how to improve shopping, Bing Shopping too. So shopping's really taken off for these clients to the point where they actually find most of their spend is starting to go into shopping. And what we found is that from previous agencies they'd worked with, from doing campaigns themselves, not a lot of time is actually spent trying to optimize shopping in respect to search. A lot more time goes into their search campaigns. And yet actually we see the growing trend that shopping is becoming a much more attractive feature within Google and indeed within Bing. We see it on the shopping tab, but we also see it on the all tab. So people who are doing a generic search for an item they want are being presented with shopping results, and often they're working better from a conversion point of view because the user gets to filter their desires, gets to click on websites where they're actually more likely to find a product they're interested in. And we've even seen that this is now starting to cross into other fields, be that image search. So Google's starting to use image as a way of people finding inspiration. So they're looking for items that they might like, and Google serving up ads that potentially meet those desires. This is quite an interesting feature and perhaps will integrate with the deep learning system, which starts to categorize images. And so it might start to show products from your range which fit with a user's desires much more closely. And it's been over a year now since we heard that shopping spend has gone over search spend. So it is an important time in terms of looking at how we can update, optimize, enhance our shopping campaigns. So today I want to talk to you about some of the findings we've had about how to improve shopping campaigns. We're going to start pretty much from the beginning of how to build your campaigns first. Then we're going to look at what you can do to enhance the campaigns themselves on the feeds. And finally, how we can optimize. So let's start with building, and we're going to start first with building on feeds. So right now, when you actually utilize shopping, you get the option to filter down to specific attributes that you're most interested in, whether that be price or range or color or material. And so your feed is clearly helping Google and other players to filter down for you. So now they know more information about what you're after, and they can make a much more informed decision as to what you're actually looking for. Then it's a hugely data-rich environment. So you're actually, through the feed, giving information about your products. You're telling kind of what these products are, and you're helping that filtration system to work. And so it's really important to try and get as much information into your feeds as possible. As a starting point from building a shopping campaign, I ideally need my clients to supply every bit of information they can so that I can do the best job possible. So in this case, there's an opportunity to see which bits of data are actually performing better than other bits. And then once we have our feeds in place, we move on to actually building campaigns. And this is where we found it the most difficult and the area that had the most potential impact. So to begin with, we started to actually look at structures in terms of basic structure of how you split keywords, because you don't get the option to actually bid on keywords within shopping. And this is obviously a problem. And I think a lot of people really see this as a big challenge. So what you tend to do is bid on a product. And then the system itself will determine which search terms that product appears for. And if you were to go away today and look at your campaigns, it would be advisable to have a look at a search query report and look at your top 5 products, say, and look at the range of different keywords that you're triggering that product for. And then start to think about how can you start to segment that out. So the first place we start is with a basic structure like this. So we use the priority systems. So you've got high priority, medium priority, and low priority, which says, if a product can match to my high priority campaign, then please do so. If not, then maybe I'll match it with my medium. And if it can't match there, then move it down to the low priority. And so we use this to begin with by segmenting out our top keywords. Now, usually that's things that are more specific, things that convert better, things where there's higher volume, and we want to make more specific changes to these terms. And so we add all of our products into the top high priority campaign. And then we use a scripted system, or if you want to do it manually, go for it, to add negatives of everything that's not those keywords. So if we were to select, say, 50 keywords that we know have volume and perform well, and then negative anything else that we see. Usually a script is a good way to go because you can have that every day, have a look at the search terms that came through recently and negative them all. So that campaign then starts to become a campaign that only contains these keywords. Then we move on to the next tier, so this is medium. So everything else will then move down into this level. And here we actually just add our brand keywords as a negative. So what you end up with is a campaign that contains everything else that's non-brand. And finally, on your low priority, then all that you've got remaining is brand keywords. And so from a reporting point of view, you can separate out brand and non-brand, a really important thing. However, this isn't enough. So at this point, we then have products within each of these campaigns, maybe the same products within each campaign, but still matching to a wide variety of search terms that perform differently. So we go for a more advanced structure within each of these. So I'm going to take, first of all, the high priority keywords. So let's take, for example, that we've got 5 priority keywords, just for sake of argument here. And we have a number of products that match to those keywords. So if I look at kettle number 2 here, for example, it can still match against most of these search terms, but the value of the click on these different search terms massively varies. So for example, a generic term like kitchen appliance, I might actually want to bid on it for a kettle, but it will have a very low return. And so my bid level should be quite low. Then when you're being more specific about the type of kettle, the value of the click goes up for me. Now, the problem with the current structure that we have is that for that product, you're appearing for all these terms, and you've got to set one bid. So you might say, well, the value of that product is maybe like £1.20, but then you're underbidding on the kind of more specific terms, such as DeLonghi kettle, and you're overbidding on the more generic terms. And so what we can do here is actually start to create multiple ad groups. So I would then have, say, 5 ad groups for this kettle. And in each ad group, I would add 4 of the other terms as negatives. So I'm creating a negative system where the only thing that can trigger for this kettle in one of the ad groups is kitchen appliances. And therefore, I can set my bid at 40p. Now, you need to do this on scale, of course. So this could be 100 keywords and 1,000 products. So it's going to get pretty intense. But using Excel and some of the automation that Ariane talked about earlier, you could easily sort of build this campaign out at scale. Then you need to move on to the next tier. So this is for your specific keywords. The next tier is much more difficult because this is a collection of potentially millions of search terms that fall into the next tier, the generics. And so what we do here is usually pull a huge search query report of everything we've seen over X number of months, and we start to segment all of those searches down into categories. So we might pick 10 segments. And again, you would just duplicate your ad groups for each of the products, and then make sure you're negativing every other keyword apart from your chosen selection of keywords. Then what you're creating is a system where you're breaking them down into 10 tiers, for example. If you want to go to the next level, we actually use tools which do this automatically all the time and constantly keep creating new ad groups for all the products and adding new segments, so that eventually you would hope to get to more of a one-to-one relationship between keyword and product. And therefore, all of your bid setting can be done based on both the keyword and product, and not just product. And that's taking it more to the level of what you do with your search terms now, your kind of search campaigns, where you've got much more control over bids. So next we need to enhance. So again, we'll go back to the feed. So when it comes to feeds, what we find is that sometimes the feed is fixed and that the client can't make changes easily. It's done by another company, etc. And so we would recommend using a supplemental feed. So a supplemental feed allows you as advertisers to actually make changes to the attributes within the feed. So for example, changing titles in order to optimize, adding keywords into descriptions in order to try and appear for more things. Merging attributes is really useful if you want to actually start to bring some of the attributes such as colors and styles into the titles. And finally, adding custom dimensions we find really useful. So if you're working in retail and you particularly maybe in fashion, you might have limited size availability across stock. And what you don't want to do is bid aggressively on a product when actually you've sold out of all of the major sizes and all you've got left is XXL or kind of bigger or smaller sizes. So we usually give a scoring system in order to improve our bidding. So if a product is available in all sizes, it would get a maximum score and therefore have a higher bid. And if it's got very limited availability in stock, it still obviously doesn't show as no stock, but you can downweight the bids because it's less likely a user will find a size they're interested in. Other things we put into there are usually things like margin, if you're looking to optimize to profit. So if you want to put margin levels in, you can tell kind of the system to bid up when the margin level is higher. So I'm going to just show you a few of the others. So amending titles, here's a little example of how you enhance. So for example, this designer is called Diane von Furstenberg, quite a long name. And we often find that things like this, like long name designers or even kind of internal product names can take up a lot of space and they don't really mean anything to the user. This user's already said they're looking for a DVF dress. You don't need to tell them this is Diane von Furstenberg and you're using all of your available space here. And so changing systems, kind of looking at titles and reducing them down and trying to get more interesting things into there, such as a style. This is a DVF wrap dress, therefore someone knows that's the kind of dress they want. That makes it much more likely you'll get the click as well. And then sharing data. So you have your search campaigns, you have your shopping campaigns, and potentially also you have your sort of SEO query data. You can use all of that to start to understand whether you're missing terms from shopping. So if you're missing and not appearing for certain terms, it may be that within all of your product set, you've never really mentioned that in the descriptions. And we find that even if you're mentioning the parts of the keyword, but they're separated, sometimes you don't show. And so if you actually make sure you want to appear for DVF dress, that in the product description it says DVF dress, that can actually be the difference between appearing. And you can use it to find things in search as well that you didn't know you were missing. So shopping obviously has this automated way of appearing for keywords, and there may be good stuff that you find in shopping that you're not bidding on in search, and so you can use the two together. And then finally, optimizing. So once you've actually enhanced your title so they're giving good information to users, start to actually play around with what that information is that you're giving. So here we had a very good example with one of our clients where we added thread count into the description, something that's not visibly tangible. So something that a user can't instantly see this product is a high quality. So your kind of bed linen or your towels that you're selling, they may be of a much higher quality and that's why the price is higher, but to the user that's not obvious. And you can see here other people using things like 100% cotton or reversible as a way to just give a little bit more information about the product. And then obviously optimizing. So once you have your structure that's more one-to-one between keyword and product, you can start to actually optimize in the way you would search keywords. So you're wanting to line up the value of click with the amount that you're paying. Do that across your kind of top keywords, and then for your secondary tier, starting to look at things like attribute performance. So if you know that red performs particularly badly in shopping, you can reduce all your bids across red-based products. Or if you know that delivery-based keywords work really well, you can push all your bids on those terms. And so make small changes to mass keywords based on overall performance. And finally, you might find that actually some products just simply don't work. So this is, after all, a shop window for you. This is a way of attracting people into your site. They may not actually buy the products that you're showing them. And so you sometimes find that some products don't perform in shopping. They just don't get the clicks or they don't get the conversion. They may bring someone through to your website in a misrepresentative way. You may have one product that's very different from the rest of your product set. And so people get to your site and actually the rest of what you're selling is not appealing to them. So making sure you're actually removing products that don't work for you as a shop window item. And then the final thing is to understand that this is a shop window, and if you have a retail store, people do tend to want to go and try on these products as well. And so trying to integrate some kind of offline-based tracking, so here, for example, bringing shop visits into the campaigns, allows you to understand whether there's added value of being attractive through these products in shopping. And this would hopefully mean that you can get the most out of your shopping overall. And that's it from me. Thanks.
This was originally recorded at a Brighton SEO conference. If you want to listen to more episodes or find out about the conference itself, you can do at brightonseo.com.